I think you're going to love this one. Joe Biden has now declared a new public enemy number one, shrinkflation. Now, that's what he says happens when fewer items are placed in containers, but the price remains the same, like when there's, fewer chips in a bag. Joe released a video about shrinkflation on the day of the Super Bowl, and apparently he's going to bring it up during the State of the Union address as well. But why the sudden focus on the so-called issue? Well, it's obvious that Joe knows that everything that you buy is too expensive, especially food, and he just doesn't want you to blame him for it. I thought he was bragging about Bidenomics. Now, instead, just blame those nasty, greedy, big corporations, big oil, big pharma, big, but no big government. Again, the American people, they know better. The Wall Street Journal pointing out, rightly so, a sad fact that Americans are now spending more of their incomes on food right now than at any other point in the past 30 years, since 1991 to be specific. And that's all because of Joe Biden, Bidenomics, Biden inflation. Here with reaction, Louisiana Senator John Hannity is with us. Senator, good to have you back. Blame big oil, blame big business. The border isn't his fault. Nothing's his fault. Everything is Trump's fault. The border is safe and secure, but now it's Republicans' fault. When you think of this number, that the Americans spend more on food, more of their income as a percentage on food than at any other point in the past 30 years, Senator, I think those people see and feel the real impact of Bidenomics in real time. Will he get away with this shifting of blame?
Sean, I did not think that President Obama was a very good president. But compared to President Biden, President Obama just shoplifted. President Biden stole the whole bank. President Biden's inflation not only hurts people, but it hurts businesses. Shrinkflation exists when a business needs to raise its prices because its costs have gone up as a result of inflation, but it's scared to raise its prices because it's scared people won't buy its product. So it saves money by making a smaller product. Unless you were homeschooled by a day drinker, you can see that shrinkflation and inflation are just different sides of the same coin. And any economist, any reputable economist who didn't get his degree from Costco will tell you that President Biden's economic policies caused both inflation and shrinkflation. Now, I don't hate anyone, and that includes President Biden. But when he tries to blame shrinkflation and inflation on small business people, you have to consider the source. So much of the attention right now is on President Biden's age. And it's true that it takes longer than a trip to Jupiter for him to walk across a stage. But we can't lose sight of the fact that his economic policies have been almost every time reliably and dependably wrong. And his inflation is a cancer on the American dream. And the American people have figured it out, and that's why, if you believe the polls, the president is polling right up there with chlamydia.
Senator, California, for example, is suing oil companies. They have some of the highest oil prices in the country, gas prices in the country. Joe Biden has talked about doing the same thing. Now they're going after big business. Now they talk about corporate greed. Now they come up and coin a new term, shrinkflation, and they want to blame everybody but themselves. At what point do they ever take responsibility and say that the buck stops here? I don't think they're willing to take responsibility for any of their policies. It's their policies that has caused the economic downturn, caused 60+% of the American people now to live paycheck to paycheck. How do they get away with trying to shift that blame?
Well, look, it's time that we're honest with ourselves, Sean. This presidential election is going to be President Trump versus President Biden. I've endorsed President Trump. When the media asks me why, I tell them it's not a choice between a Republican and a Democrat. It's a choice between hope and more hurt. And with President Biden, all we're going to get is more hurt, starting with the cost of going to the grocery store, continuing on with crime in the streets, the open bleeding wound at the border, the fact that our enemies no longer respect us, the sacrifice of our energy independence. I mean, it's been just a conga line of failures. It gives me no joy to say that, but that's the way the American people see it. As I've said before, the American people may be poorer under President Biden, but they're not stupid. They have figured this out.
Do you really believe that? Now, polls show that, and polls show Joe's losing a large part of the base of the Democratic Party. Do you think that holds?
I think that a large part of the Democratic Party will probably stay home. That's what happens when a voter is not enthusiastic about his or her candidate. If the election were held today, I think President Trump's vote would turn out, and I think a lot of the misgivings about President Biden, all well placed, would result in a lower voter turnout for his base.
Do you think Donald Trump can bring in independents that often swing elections?
Well, once again, it's a choice between hope or more hurt. And if people think back about how their lives were under President Trump and compare them to today, I think they'll vote accordingly.
All right, Senator Kennedy, always great to have you. Thank you for being with us.